undefeated UFC bantamweight prospect, Jack Shore. Thank you, Jack, for coming back on again. You had a big performance on Fight Island. How are you feeling today?
I'm all good, my friend. Obviously, thanks for having me back on. It's always a good time. But yeah, I'm feeling good, feeling ready, and just looking forward to getting back in there.
All right, now, 2 fights in the UFC, 2 finishes, 2 rear naked chokes. How do you assess your progression with the promotion so far?
I mean, yeah, overall very happy with how things have gone. I mean, the old COVID-19 situation has probably made it a little bit slower than I'd have liked. I mean, obviously I fought it was just over a year ago now in my debut in Copenhagen. I think I was in the September, so I would have liked to have gone maybe 1 or 2 more fights in the time span. But that's not in my control or the UFC's control. So apart from that, very happy. Obviously, two wins, 2 finishes, 2 fights where I look good, in my performance. So far so good.
All right, now let's go to Fight Island. You had the fight at 4 a.m. with no crowd. Was that a weird experience?
It was definitely different. I mean, to be honest, the fighting in the middle of the night was a bit more weird than the no crowd. I mean, I fought on cards before where as an amateur, there hasn't been anyone in the venue yet, or what I fought in the IMAFs, there was no crowd there. So that was something that I knew wouldn't be necessarily too alien to me. But the whole week we had to spend going to bed around like 6 a.m. and we was getting up around sort of 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and sort of living your day upside down in essence. You're getting up and it's starting to get dark. So that was the weird part of the week. I was fortunate enough that I nailed my sleeping pattern down very early on in the week and got into that routine, where I was firing on all cylinders and awake and fresh, when around about the time that I was going to be fighting. So come fight night, there was no sleepiness or tiredness, obviously, before I went in the octagon, thankfully.
Do you think some fighters have had a hindrance because of this? Because they did not get their sleep patterns properly, adjusted before the fight?
But, I mean, it's definitely something that if you didn't get on top of it early, it could definitely affect you. I mean, the PI put together like a sleeping, not like a package, I suppose, like a plan for people to try and follow. But me and my coaches sort of did our own thing, because when I tried to treat it as in like what I would usually do on fight day. So like a usual fight day, for example, if I'm fighting at, say, I don't know, 7, 8 p.m., I'm usually up by like 8 a.m. and I've got a long day in front of me because I like to be up early on fight day and I like to get the day going. Whereas sort of the PI system, I think they were having the guys get up sort of like 2 or 3 hours before they fought. Whereas, it worked for a lot of the guys out there, a lot of the British guys I've spoke to. But for me, I'm just glad I did it the way I did it, because I think if I had got up, 12 a.m. and then had to fight at 3 or 4 a.m., I think it would have been a little bit of a rush. So if you don't get that nailed down early in the week, it's obviously going to be very tough then going on. And potential. I mean, I haven't heard anyone come out and speak about their effect and their performance, but I can imagine behind closed doors there's a few who've sort of struggled with the old scenario,
Yeah, definitely. Now, when you got back to Wales, was there a quarantine?
Yeah, so there was a 2-week quarantine, but I was fortunate. Whereas in the UK, I could do it at my own home. I didn't have to, like I see like Robert Whittaker and Adesanya, and they've had to quarantine in a hotel for 2 weeks, whereas we were just told at the airport, look, your passport is sort of void now for 2 weeks. You can't leave the country, and you also need to quarantine. But thankfully, I got to go with my girlfriend and my dog and do it there, rather than stuck in an hotel room on my own.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a huge difference to be at home and be with some people. Instead of being alone and isolated. Now, after the quarantine, did you get back into training immediately, or did you take a little vacation?
No, I got straight back in. To be honest, in the build-up to the Fight Island fight, the gyms in the UK are actually closed to the public. Pro fighters or pro athletes then in any sport were allowed to train with other pros. But the gyms for the public were closed. So obviously I fought the middle of July, and then I think it was the 5th of August, the gyms opened to the public. So although like my quarantine was coming to an end, then it was just, there was that much buzz and that much excitement to get back in the gym and see all the amateur guys and all the jiu-jitsu guys and get our place up and running, that I just wanted to get straight back into it, straight back into training. I feel my teammates had fights booked, so it just made sense really. I mean, I didn't we can't fly nowhere at the minute in the UK, you know, unless it's essential. My girlfriend is a key worker, so she's still, you know, she's not, she doesn't have to isolate, or you know, her job is still going ahead. So I got straight back in the gym and ticked over, you know, till I had to call for this fight.
So your gym is completely open to members and everything?
It is now, but typically I'm saying this is open. We've been open since August the 5th, and now we've been told by the Welsh government that we've got to close now on Friday for 2.5 weeks, and they're doing like a circuit break lockdown where sort of restaurants and nightclubs and pubs and gyms, pretty much everything apart from supermarkets is now going to be closed for 2.5 weeks. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with it, but it is what it is. You know, it's the law. We've got to do it. But it's perfect timing. I've got 1 week of training left before I fly out, so I can make do for a week. You know, fortunately, this hasn't come into place, you know, 3-4 weeks ago when I'm in the middle of a fight camp.
Definitely. Now you're set to face Khalid Taha next on November 7th. You know, I heard that, you know, you had a few names being tossed around. I heard some things, you know what I mean? Like you were matched up with some other guys. Can you reveal anything to us?
I mean, there was nothing. I actually matched up. I don't want to mispronounce his name. It was he's a Korean guy. Big dude. I can't think of his name now. Mr. Perfect or something like that.
Mr. Perfect. Kyung yeah.
Yeah, that's him. So I was matched up with him. The contract came through. I think it was for example, and it was like a Wednesday morning. So I was over the moon, signed the contract, sent it off, and then about 12 hours later, I was laid in bed about to go to sleep, and my manager texted me to say he was injured and he can't fight. So, you know, within not even a day of signing the contract, I'd already had a pullout. They came to me then about a week later, obviously with Khalid, and you know, fortunately, we're all systems go on that one now, and fingers crossed we don't have no late change arounds like last time.
No doubt, man. Now Taha, he's 2-1 in the UFC. Checking out his film, you know, what are your thoughts on the style he brings?
You know, he's very explosive guy, very powerful. You know, he's a route one guy. He comes forward, he throws heavy hands. I mean, he's a decent wrestler and grappler too, but obviously his main strength is you can see he wants to strike and he wants to push for that knockout. You know, I'm a very all-rounded fighter, so although the clear path to victory will probably be to look for that takedown and sort of dominate on the ground, I'm very comfortable on the feet too. You know, I've got a very high-level boxing and Thai boxing coach. I've been sparring with some very high-level boxers in preparation for this fight. You know, guys, Chris Jenkins, who's a British and Commonwealth boxing champion over the year in the UK. Reese Edwards, who's he's 9-0 as a pro now, up and comer. He's a future world champion. So I'm more than prepared. You know, if I got to keep this fight on the feet for a long period of time, I'm very confident in being able to do so and keeping myself safe. You know, avoiding those big punches and using my range and my length like I have done in previous fights. But it's a very nice fight. It's a good fight. He's got a bit of a following as well. You know, people sort of, when I was telling people I'm fighting him, that they like, you know, they would straight away like, oh, I've seen him fight. You know, he's a good guy. So it's definitely a good matchup with two prospects, I think, coming through. I know his one loss was to Nad Narimani, a guy who I've trained with in the past, and that was on short notice. So, you know, the two fights he's been prepared for, he's looked very good in. So I'm looking forward to it.
Taha, he's returning off a 1-year suspension by USADA. You know, does that, I know you're a guy that loves and promotes a clean sport. Does that bother you a little bit?
I mean, it does a little bit. I mean, I haven't looked too much into. I've seen online people are saying he took some sort of tablet to reduce, that he was given it in an hospital to reduce the swelling or something in his face, and there was something in that. I mean, if that's the case, then you know he probably is innocent in the sense of he didn't know what he was taking. But I mean, anyone who sort of takes sort of steroids or blood doping, you can have that sort of attitude with them that, you know, they don't deserve to be in the sport. But if he's genuinely took something that, you know, he didn't know he was tainted or he didn't know was not allowed, then you can sympathise a little bit. But I'm not focused on that. You know, I'm not looking at it as he's had a year out from the sport. You know, a lot of people have had a long period of time out of the sport with the current pandemic. So I'm looking past that, and I'm just fully focused, thinking in my head he's going to come in here the best he's ever been, and that's what I'm going to be prepared for tonight.
A lot of people fell in love with like, oh, the long layoff's gonna have a bad effect on a fighter. And last weekend, Brian Ortega comes off a 2-year layoff and just completely annihilates the Korean Zombie in his game, which was pretty phenomenal. Were you impressed?
Very impressed. I mean, I was a big Brian Ortega fan anyway. But like you said, I mean, I was one of those guys who sort of thought, will the 2-year layoff affect him? Will he be rusty? Or, I see he's changed teams, so perhaps I was thinking, perhaps he's done it so that he can, get comfortable with his new team and learn some new skills. And that was exactly what he did. He come in there, known as this elite level grappler and looked like an elite level striker. Outstruck a guy for 5 rounds who is, known for being an extremely skilled striker. So he looked incredible, and I'm looking forward to seeing him fight for the title now.
Any differences? You mentioned the boxing. Any differences between this camp and last camp?
just the style of sort of opponent we're preparing for. I mean, the last camp the guys I was matched up were sort of taller guys, longer, rangier guys. Whereas this camp I'm fighting a guy who's a little bit shorter, very explosive. So just a lot of same training, same partners, but obviously doing our extra boxing with the and I mean, these guys I'm sparring, that they may be sort of American guys who are listening to the interview, that they may not necessarily know who they are, but they're elite level guys. Both of these guys are world class. Could fight for world titles now. So it's a humbling experience for me as an MMA fighter to be going in there with guys who are so skilled with the hands, and it's brought my stand-up game on so much more in these last couple of weeks, and I'm really looking forward to sort of showing that and utilising the skills that I've learned from sparring these guys in the fight.
This fight will be in Las Vegas. Has the visa process gone pretty smooth?
Yeah, all smooth so far. I've got to go up to London now this Friday, so in 2 days to sort of hand in my paperwork. You've got to complete like a small interview just to pretty much, it's all formality I think at this stage, just pretty much for them to say, see you are who you say you are, and then get a stamp in the passport. So it's been very smooth. In all fairness, the UFC and my management, intensity, they took care of that. I haven't had to worry about it too much. Fingers crossed this UK lockdown doesn't affect the flights. But it's looking good. It's looking like it's going to be a smooth process, and nothing with me ever tends to go smooth in the build up to a fight. So I'm expecting 1 or 2 bumps in the road yet, but I'm sure we'll be out there and we'll be ready to go regardless. 2
submissions in a row. Do you expect to choke out Taha just like everyone else?
I think if we hit the ground and I've got time to work, I do see he's very explosive even in his transitions, and anyone who's underneath me, if you just try to get yourself out of there with sheer athleticism and sheer strength and explosiveness, I'm going to snap something up, whether that's an arm, a neck, or just a better, more dominant position, or rain down some heavy shots. So it's definitely a possibility. I always say it, I'm ready to get the finish in a round, or I'm ready to go 3 rounds and win on points. But if the opportunity arises, the guys have seen my fights before. I'm not in it just looking to grind out and looking to go the decision. If I can get the finish and the finish presents itself, I'll snap it up within seconds. So it's definitely a possibility. I tend to find myself on these guys' backs an awful lot, and if I end up on the back, I think I'm capable of finishing anyone in the division. So obviously that's a picture perfect finish if I can get there. 3 fights, 3 submissions, 3 rear nakeds. Why not?
That's a great place to be, though. Somehow you get there every time. It's incredible.
Yeah, I know. It's one of them. I don't know where I've developed it. It's not like my coach is a sort of backtaking specialist. I think it's just over the years where I've been coming up through the amateur ranks, I've been so good and so sort of ferocious then in my ground and pound. I take sort of full amount of half guard, and the guy, they're not going to sit there taking shots. They tend to turtle up, and I think over the years I've just sort of conditioned myself to, when they turtle up, take that back, and if the neck's there, take the neck. Why keep it in a guy for 3 minutes when you can put him in a choke and the fight can be over in 10 seconds?
Has anybody ever told you that your style is kind of similar to how Khabib fights?
Yeah, I've had like comparisons drawn, but more so like early on in my Cage Warriors days. Before, I think people just see me as like this wrestler grappler back when I was a novice pro. Obviously towards the last sort of 2.5 years of my career, I've shown I can strike as well and fight in all areas. But early on, I was just coming out, hitting that takedown and dominating the fight on the ground. And a lot of people sort of call me the Welsh Khabib. And, I've got a little bit to go yet before I can be considered someone who's similar to Khabib. But, that's a style. I'm always watching Khabib, especially with the weekends coming now, him and Gaethje. I've been watching his tape constantly the last sort of 2 weeks. And I just picked so much up from watching those guys like Khabib, GSP, Damian Maia, those sort of guys who were just so good in the transition. Frank Yeager's another one I watch a lot of. There's so much I can pick up. I mean, I'm not like I sort of don't condone these guys who think they can learn to fight off YouTube and Fight Pass, but at the same time, when you're training every day, if you can watch a bit of tape like that on these elite level guys, there's so much you can sort of try and take into the gym and play about with yourself. The level they're at, obviously what they're doing works. So if I can take little bits here and there from their game and somehow implement it into my game, then it's going to help me. But people have drawn. I mean, the GSP comparison in the last fight was the first time. Someone like Mike Bisping, someone who's considered, very knowledgeable, like Bisping and Felder have said about me being the GSP. But I've had a couple of friends, say you're the Welsh Khabib, but I try to explain to them, that guy's a different level,
Well, that's the goal, man, to get to that level, in your weight division, which is the bantamweight division. I feel like there's nobody with that style in the division right now. It's
that is
rare.
the goal. I mean, Khabib, like I look at it as Khabib was 13-0 once, and I presume everyone was saying, this is going to be the next guy that's going to beat the other guy. And they always say, no, if they can stop the takedown, but it's like you've got to stop it first. And very much like Khabib, I only need that one takedown to take full advantage. So it's not a matter of if you can stop it; it's as if you can constantly stop it. You heard DC talk about Khabib a few weeks ago. He said, he doesn't need to take him down at will. He just needs to take him down once. So I like to think I'm the same thing. If I can get a takedown in position, I'm very clinical when I go to work down on the ground. So, his sort of style is someone I try to emulate a little bit.
The approach that you have is polar opposites from someone like Sean O'Malley. He's out in the media talking wild and he's confident, of course, just like yourself, but it's a different approach. So you're kind of creeping up with this style that, I don't know, it's dangerous for a lot of guys, man. So it's that's why I like talking to you, man, because I get to get that insider, info. And then when everybody finds out, I'll be like, hey, man, this dude's been doing his thing for a while now. You just didn't know yet because he's not like talking shit, basically, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I've always grown up, like when I started martial arts, I'm a traditional martial artist, I started in the traditional stuff, the Japanese jiu-jitsu, I kickboxed from a young age, but it was at a traditional martial arts gym. My father he's my coach, obviously he came up in the traditional jiu-jitsu scene as well, and the judo scene, and he sort of instilled that into me from young, so I mean, it's never been in my nature to trash talk. Obviously I'm confident, and if people want to go with words, then I'm more than capable of holding my own. But that's not my style. I go about my business, and like you said, I think now people are starting to take notice because I'm not the most brash guy in the world who's shouting my name, but I'm slowly creeping, and more people are starting to take note. And fingers crossed, I keep doing what I'm doing. Eventually, whereas now, Wales and a couple of guys over there on notice. The whole world will be on notice, hopefully, now in a couple of years' time.
You go in there, you beat Taha, that's 3 in a row, and you do have that undefeated record, which is something that the UFC loves to promote. Where do you think that puts you in the division?
I mean, I think it all depends on the style in which I win. If I have to grind them out maybe and sort of steal a win that's maybe, is not sort of a big flashy finish, then I think probably one more win before I'm in a position to push for a top 15. If I can go in there and put him away early, then I don't see no reason why the next fight can't potentially be a top 15 fight, or be against a guy who's previously been top 15, who was on the verge of top 15 himself. So I think it all depends on how this fight goes and what the outcome is. But if I go in there and finish it and look good doing it, then that's what I'm going to be asking for next. Especially over in Vegas, I always feel like more eyes are on the American cards for some reason. That's always a mentality I've had. Obviously, Dana's cage side, Dana's there all fight week. You've got the matchmakers are always in Vegas, so it's a good chance for me to really put my name out there, and it's an opportunity I'm going to look to sort of grab with both hands.
I've been saying this year the bantamweight division has become the best division in the UFC. A lot of people might not agree with me, but I believe so. And I believe that the bantamweight division is the best division in the world. If you look at all the other promotions, you look at Bellator, Ryzen, One Championship, look at their bantamweight division. It's stacked, man. And the UFC's the most stacked. So, man, it's exciting, man. Jack, always a pleasure speaking with you, man. I'm excited to see you get back in there November 7th in Las Vegas. This is your first Las Vegas fight, so it must add a little bit, extra for you.
Yeah, man. It's I don't know if it adds pressure, but it definitely. I'm really looking forward to getting. And I know obviously Vegas is sort of is not what it usually is. Obviously outside of the pandemic, but I'm just looking forward to getting out there and experiencing a Vegas fight week. Never been to the PI, never even been to Vegas, so it's something I can't wait to get out there, enjoy the week, and put on a great show for everyone as well.
Take a move in the ring. You can hit me with a